There we go. I couldn't talk and type at the same time. Something to think about while we wait for everyone else to get on the call. I'll give them a couple minutes. Oops, getting some text messages. Hang on. Okay. Hey, Michelle. I see that you're there, but I don't see you.
I was just thinking that. I don't see myself either.
You might have to, are you on the same, what am I trying to say? Are you using the same method as normal, or are you on a different device?
Using my phone like normal.
Okay. Sometimes with the settings, we have to go into our settings and tell it to allow Zoom to use your camera.
Let's check that out.
Yeah, see if you can try that. Just wait a quick minute. I'm just going to text somebody really quick. I am asking everyone for 3 questions to think about. What are you noticing about yourself that surprises you? Question mark. What are you celebrating? Question mark. And what challenges you the most? Question mark. Sorry, guys. It was way faster for me to just say that into the speaker.
What did you say? What 3 things?
I have them typed in the chat, but since you're on your phone, you probably can't see them very well. I was texting them to someone that can't make it to the call. So the 3 questions that I want you to think about that we'll discuss is, what are you noticing about yourself that is surprising you? And what are you celebrating? And what has been a challenge for you during this back to spring? So just some things to think about and get those juices flowing and keeping ourselves aware. All right. So we've got a couple minutes after 7. I'm going to get you guys going and then anyone who joins us can just jump in. That's why I put the questions right up in the chat. That way, if they jump in late, they can see them. And then anyone who's watching the replay, I would love it if you could take those same 3 questions and, ask yourself those and even go one step further. Since you're not here on the live call, maybe you can post your answers on the Facebook page, just so we can see what we're noticing, because maybe something that you're noticing about yourself, someone else might not have noticed that about themselves, but when you bring it up, they might think, actually, I think I'm experiencing that too. A lot of times we just don't realize it. So that's why it's always helpful during these calls to share celebrations, just to share struggles, to just share everything, because there's so much that happens to us that we tend to either forget or we just don't even recognize it when it's happening. So welcome, guys. I'm so happy that you guys could join me for tonight's call. We are starting our 3rd week together. But remember, we started at week 0. Hi, Rebecca. We started at week 0 as a prep week, and then we have 2 weeks of actual eating spring foods so far. So today's that 2nd week that we're actually eating in spring. And so I want to chat and see how it's going, and I want to help support you, guide you, and just see where we can improve ourselves in this spring season. So I've posted some questions, and I know Rebecca's just joining us. Michelle can't probably see them very easily. I know on your phone, Michelle, I think if you scroll, I believe it's to the left, you can open the chat box, so you might be able to see it and you might be able to type it in there. But I think when you're on your phone, when you do that, the video, you won't be able to see people anymore. So you can just slide back and forth so that you can go back between the videos and then the chat boxes. But
see the
sorry,
chat
go
box,
ahead.
but I can see the chat box, but there's nothing in it.
Oh, there's nothing in it? Okay.
No.
You know what?
Oh.
I think when it's posted prior to you opening it up, I think the questions or any comments, I think, aren't there. Let me see if I can repost mine. Let's see. Rebecca, you don't either. I think that's because I posted it before you guys logged on. Okay, I'm going to retype the questions. I notice that when I'm on calls too, that if I jump on late, it looks like no one's chatting in the chat box. And then it starts from when I open up the chat box. Okay. So does anyone want to go first? Does anyone want to share while I'm typing this in? Feel free to, for those of you that were on the call and you can see the 3 questions, jump right in and let us know what you think. I'm typing them in right now for you guys. I'm a slow typer. Okay, last one. Okay. Okay, here we go, guys. Can you see those now, Rebecca and Michelle? So the first question is, what are you noticing about yourself that surprises you? Hey, why don't we do this since some of you can't see the questions, or maybe you're seeing them now, but we'll just go around and we'll each answer each one. How's that? What are you noticing about yourself that surprises you? I can go first if you want. What am I noticing about myself that surprises me? I can tell you that sometimes I still use big events as an excuse to have junk food. You know, I thought that maybe after 2 years of this that I would not do that anymore. It does get less and less, but I am noticing that surprises me that I'm still using that excuse because, you know, we had a wedding last weekend, a family weekend, with a bunch of people and celebration. And I did give myself permission. I kind of knew because I had recognized that in myself before. So I gave myself permission to have a little wedding cake. And actually the wedding cake, and this is how I noticed that this is why this came to my mind as what surprises me. I gave myself permission to have wedding cake. So I went into that with the thought of being like, I'm totally aware, I'm in control, I'm going to have wedding cake. You know, it was a very calm decision. And I figured it would be a very calm reaction when I saw the wedding cake because I've mentally prepared myself for that day. Remember when we go through mental rehearsals? Remember, I've done that with you guys before, I believe. I know if you were on my spin bike, I definitely went through a mental rehearsal with you in spin class. But I went through that experience ahead of time, so that I could have a very calm manner about it. So I was picturing the wedding cake. I was picturing the atmosphere, the crowd. I was picturing myself eating it with full awareness and just having a wonderful time. But it was a calm scene in my mind. But you know what happened that I didn't expect? There was no wedding cake. You know what they had instead? Donuts. I didn't plan for donuts. And it's amazing. And what surprised me was my reaction. I was like, donuts? I haven't had donuts in so long. And I'll be honest with you, I love donuts. I would rather have a donut, I think, than wedding cake. Well, I guess it depends on which wedding cake it is. But I was like, oh my gosh. And so then it was almost like the food devil all over again, because that was not the rehearsal I went through. You know, the rehearsal was wedding cake, calm. It was going to be a beautiful cake. And I gave myself that awareness and permission. And I already rehearsed it, but that threw me off. So I found myself saying, oh, well, it's donut holes and red velvet too. And you love red velvet, and there's pumpkin donut holes, and it's a wedding and you never eat this stuff. And I was like, wow. I had not talked to myself. I should say the food devil has not spoken with that kind of an attitude in a long time. So that surprised me. But hey, I'm human too, right? So how about you guys? Does anyone else want to share what you're noticing about yourself that surprises you? Come on, don't be shy. Nothing surprises you? Oh, Deborah, something surprises her. Okay.
Okay, I was listening to a podcast that had Dr. Gundry on it. And he's very much into the microbiomes and all this in our gut, your gut health. He says your gut health is your basis, whatever. Anyway, and he's probably right, because I'm still having gut issues. But I did notice that when he was talking, he's talking about carbohydrates and your net carbs and all this sort of stuff. And he said, so you think you're not eating sugar because you're not eating sugar. But if you take your net carbs and you realize that for every 4 grams of net carbs, you're eating 1 teaspoon of sugar because your body converts it to sugar. There's my sugar monster. Yep. I'm in heavy duty into those crackers, and good crackers. They're on my list of you can have these. Mm-hmm. I just realized that that's why I eat an entire bag of the Siete Tostitos and these crackers. And it's my sugar monster, which I thought was under control. So I've noticed that.
That's interesting. So do you think, Deborah, that because they're on your approved list of healthier versions of crackers, do you think that automatically kind of gives you the green light to have them and have more of them? Yeah, I do that too with nuts, because nuts are healthy, nuts are approved. But I tend to go overboard with nuts because I know they're good for me and I like them.
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
It's interesting. So you're noticing that now you're looking at it now from a more scientific perspective, right? Now that you know that those carbohydrates do count and it keeps that sugar alive in your body.
Yeah. So how do I counteract that? I don't know that I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I love those crackers.
You know what? That's how I am with almonds. So when something is I wouldn't say it's good for us, because like do you remember the principles of WildFit? Like when we're contemplating a food, do you remember one of the most basic principles of WildFit is, what can this food give me? What am I going to gain by having this? Is this going to give me nutrition? Is it something that I need? Is there nutrients in this product that I have to have? Crackers? No, not really. No. There's probably nothing in that cracker we have to have. So that means we're choosing to have it, even though it's maybe not ideal. We don't need it, but do we want it? I think of that with nuts. Do I have to have nuts? No, there's other things that can give me the same nutrients as nuts do. Do they give me pleasure, though, to have them? Sure. No. And they do have some good qualities in them. So, we have to flex our muscles, I hate to use the term willpower, but sometimes we do need a little willpower in the beginning until we get really good at getting rid of that desire and that primal need for that item that we want, that we think we want. So what I do personally, this is what works for me, just because I know how I am. I don't buy nuts unless I have a very specific use for them. So for example, if I buy nuts, I immediately have to come home and use them for the recipe that I bought them for, or if I didn't buy them for a specific recipe, if I just bought them to make almond milk, I have to make almond milk immediately. And I have to use all the almonds. I have to use them
Oh my
all
God.
so that I
Okay.
can make the almond milk, because I know for me, if there's any leftovers, I will eat them, and I will eat too many all at once. But it took me a long time to realize that. And so I know for me, I don't quite have the strength to have them in my cupboard and me not go get them quite yet. I'm not quite there yet. So knowing that, I have to just not bring them in the house.
Yeah.
That's how
Okay, so I
have to
can't
do
buy
with
them.
us. But so yeah, whether you want to go to that extreme, I don't know. Maybe if you want to still bring them in the house, could you have someone else hide them for you so you don't know where they
Nope.
are?
No,
Nope.
just me.
Just you.
Well, my
Okay.
husband would not hide them. He still eats his, what I call his junk food. He still eats his junk
Okay.
food. So, and I'm okay with him eating what he wants because I can't have those anyway, but
Okay. Do they
yeah.
make a smaller package of them?
They do in the States, but not in Canada.
Oh, darn. I was going to
know,
say you
I
could buy the
know.
smaller package.
Yeah. They make
Okay.
individual packs in the States of the Simple Mills almond crackers. And those are the ones, but
Okay.
I went to Costco and got the big box,
Oh yeah, because we
two
want to
big
get the
bags.
most for our money, right?
That's right.
Maybe
So-
in this instance we shouldn't. And
I know.
I've actually started doing that as well. I stopped buying the bulk, and I did this with almonds. That was actually my very first step. Is I used to buy the real big bag of almonds, and that I realized was a really big rabbit hole. So then I said, you know what, it's not worth me trying to save a few bucks by getting the big bag. I'd rather spend the few bucks, get the smaller bag, and know that I'm not going to overindulge too badly because there's only so many in that smaller bag. That was my first step. And then I realized I still ate those like too much. And so now I just don't buy them unless there's a specific need for them. Rebecca's got a great idea. What about separating them into individual serving sizes? You could try that. They make like little small
Where'd
sandwich
she
bags.
go? She just disappeared.
Oh, she did. She just disappeared. Maybe she had to log off. You could try that. You could like the same thing we prep our vegetables, our produce, you could prep your snacks. Maybe that will hold you off from eating too many. If you just tell yourself, I'm only having this size Ziploc bag's worth.
Okay.
Try that.
I'll try that. Thanks,
Starter.
Rebecca. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea.
yeah.
You might be okay with that.
Yeah, I'll work on that one.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed about myself, was kind of surprising. Did you want to know what I'm celebrating?
Sure. If you are ready to
Okay.
go, you can do
Yeah.
all three if you'd like.
I was at a golf tournament yesterday, and we're still under fairly heavy lockdowns in areas like there's very little indoor dining unless you have your certificate that you've been vaccinated. So we had this golf tournament, and they have like food on the tees. And the first tee, the second tee I went to, they had drinks and snacks and whatever. And I looked at the snacks and I thought, oh, I can't have any of those. That's okay. I brought my own, so I'm good. But I know. So then they were offering up drinks. So I took a Perrier, and then I thought, why did I take a Perrier? I don't like fizzy drinks. Anyway, it was in my bag, but they offered up alcohol and this is like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, in past tournaments, I've gone, yay, I can do this. And I've had it. But then we went to the next food station, and luckily for me, the girls were extremely accommodating. They were making little tortilla wraps of breakfast, like an omelet wrapped up in a tortilla. And I said, can I have it without the tortilla? So they actually made me a special little teeny omelet that I ate myself. Which was really nice of them. The next station that had food was chocolate bars, chips, all kinds of stuff, but lemonade with vodka and stuff available. And in past years, I would have said, oh, yes, lemonade with vodka. I had none of it, none of it. And when we got back to the clubhouse, they had 3 things listed that you could order from the clubhouse menu. And I chose cauliflower bites, and I'm sure it had some things on it that I shouldn't have, but basically that's what I had as a snack, as my lunch. So
That's wonderful.
so that's my celebrating. Yeah.
That is wonderful. I am so happy to hear that. That's fantastic. How does that make you feel? Did you feel left out, or did you feel like you were just having a great time like everyone else?
I had a really good day. I was golfing with 2 of the ladies on our team. We've done this tournament for about 6 or 7 years now. It's a fundraiser for the hospital, and so it was like visiting with them because I haven't seen them in a year and a half. So yeah, so it was really nice. Yeah, so it was a good time. But one of the ladies said, "Where's your wine? You always drink wine." And I said, "Not anymore." So, but she's looking into Wild Fit, by the way. This one lady, she said, "How did you lose all your weight?" And I said, "Just freedom of food. I have what I want when I want, and I don't want wine, and I don't want those things anymore." So at the moment. However, your dry wines that you posted, I can't get them in Canada, which is probably okay. They don't ship internationally yet. But when and if I ever get down to my place in Florida again, I will probably order some for down there.
Yeah.
Just to try it.
Yes, you definitely should. They're amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you order, I think 6 bottles at a time. So it's kind of like one of those programs where you get a whole, like you subscribe, but I think you just order and they ship you 6 of them. And you can pick and choose what you want, but I don't think it has to come every month. Like I just get them when I feel like ordering them. So I'm not forced to buy any certain amount by any certain time, which is nice. But it is kind of similar to that type of program. But yeah, they're incredible because they're just, if we're going to have it, we might as well have one that's a little bit better for us, that isn't full of all the sulfites and extra sugars, and even the alcohol content is a little bit less, which is really nice because sometimes we just want to socialize and have a little drink, but we're not looking to get bombed, So they're really, really nice. I'm enjoying them. I don't have them very often because I'm not a big drinker anyway, like never have been. So I don't have them very often, but when I do, I like them. They're really good. So yeah, you'll have to check it out. That's
awesome. To look forward to.
And Ed wants to golf with you and your husband. He likes the sound of your golf.
Oh, wait a minute. Ed, you'd just be golfing with me and my girlfriends because my husband doesn't golf.
Oh.
But that's okay. Judy's husband comes,
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I've also been to those sports outings where you participate in alcohol while you're doing your sport. I know, Ed, I know you have too, because you've done the chili run. And if you guys ever are in New York, Ed, have you done the 5K out near the Finger Lakes for the Christmas run? Have you done that one? That one's a fun one. There's a house. It's all based on what's the Christmas the Christmas Story, the angel gets his wings movie. It's that one. It's all around that. And so there's one house that every single year they have a fire out in their driveway and they give you shots. They give you shots. I think one year I had shots of like peppermint schnapps, and another year I had butterscotch schnapps and Fireball. I had Fireball one time, and you're just like, oh, it's just the thing to do when you get to this house every year. So I know what you're saying when you're at your sporting events and they traditionally give you this every time, and you normally would have that. But the last time I ran that, I did not have one either. So yay, we're getting there. But that's awesome, Deborah. Thank you for sharing that. And I congratulate you for making those improvements. That's huge. What do you notice is challenging you, Deborah, this time around and back in spring? Other than what surprised you about the chips, is there anything that's kind of challenging you, or is it just the chips?
I,
Or
well,
crackers.
I also make almond cookies, but with no sweetener in them.
Mm,
But I found that I inhale those as well. So it's obviously the sugar in those that comes with the almond flour that
yeah.
I wasn't counting on. So yeah, those are yeah, I don't have any left in my freezer, which is a good thing because I have a tendency to just eat them right out of the freezer. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's obviously I've discovered I actually do have a sugar monster. I thought I'd killed it off. So
All right.
that's
Your
going to be a
sugar,
challenge.
your sugar monster sounds like your sugar monster is trying to be really sneaky because
Yep.
your sugar monster comes alive not by the obvious sugar, but
No.
the other things like you said, the flours, the things that turn to sugar in our body. So your sugar monster is getting a little sneaky.
Yes.
Yes.
True.
So, but
Yeah,
this is
I
good.
don't miss the other stuff. I don't miss chocolate. We've had 2 birthdays already and I'm ordering the cakes and it's in my freezer, but I have no desire to eat it because it's just sugar. It's just, yeah. They're
So
vegan cakes, but
that's something to celebrate. Absolutely.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
hallelujah. That is
that's
definitely a
good.
good thing. So it's a journey, right? It's just
Yeah,
getting things little by little, and
yeah.
that's not to say that almond flour and your crackers that you're eating are the worst things that you're doing. Like those are really good ingredients to have if we're going to have them. Those are the better things to have. However, we're in spring, so for this season they're not ideal, but once we're out of spring, those are great things to have. So you've got this time to work on that food devil and just being more aware of the good snacks that we're having that might be a cascade for us. So congratulations. That's a lot of good awareness.
Thanks.
Awesome. You're welcome. Does anyone else want to share? What's challenging you? What are you celebrating? And what surprises you that you're learning this time around in spring? Hey, Kathy.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So I think one of the things that I'm really more aware of is that I can't just have one bite of something. Certain things. So we were carb junkies. So we love crackers. And I don't just buy a box of crackers, you name it. We would buy Club and Ritz and Townhouse and Saltine. And then we'd hit the Wheat Thins and the Triscuits because they've got all the flavors. And, we would have just a cracker smorgasbord on the weekends. And since Wild Fit, it's funny that you can actually taste the little amount of sugar that's in a Wheat Thin or a Triscuit. And they're really not desirable, but it's really easy to have one to try it and then have two to see if you still like it. So those, last week I was joking when you said anybody drinking coffee or how about the herbal teas? And I joked about it being tea's just a gateway for it's the gateway drug to coffee. I think that's what it's that one bite of a cracker because we were such carb junkies. It's that, but you can't just eat one. And I know that if I'm unmuted. Thank you. I know that if I eat just one of something, I'm going to want a little more and a little more. So for me, spring has always been my safe zone because I'm losing weight again in spring, but I know I can't have it and I shouldn't have it. And I really don't want it. So I think I'm just more aware that I'm okay giving all of these things up that didn't have any nutritional value for me, but they were things that literally ran my life. We need crackers, but we need 7 different flavors of crackers.
Isn't that insane? Who else can resonate with that? Whether you cannot just eat one. Yeah, see, you're not alone. We're all in that same boat. Definitely. And that I think speaks to what Deborah was saying is that even though something maybe a little bit of a healthier version, it still has that response in our body. On a cellular level, those things turn to sugar in our body, and that has that sugar roller coaster where we start to crave it again. And then when we get to this point, it crashes, and then we need it again. We need that fix to get it up because we're feeling so low. So it's that roller coaster keeping us just one after another after another. I love that spring is your season. I love that you embrace spring and that it's been so good for you.
Yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure I killed off my sugar monster. This summer, my son's birthday, every year, like I do their birthday cakes, and they always challenge me to make something a little bigger and more intense than the year before. And I mean, I made Reese's peanut butter cake and peanut butter and chocolate, anything in the past, like, how can you pass it up? And, you know, it was like 6 weeks after my 90-day challenge ended, and I made it. I'm like, I want a bite. I want a taste. I knew I didn't need a whole piece, but I made it forever. And I'm like, I do want to taste it. And I justified it. Like, I had my dialogue, and I'm like, a couple of bites isn't going to kill me. It's one Saturday out of the year. So I had one bite. I'm like, wow, it's pretty good, but holy cow, it's really sweet. And then I had the second bite that I almost couldn't swallow because it was sickening to me.
Wow.
It was sickening, the amount of just the sweetness to it. So I'm so thankful. I don't have the sugar cravings. I don't go looking for things anymore. And the little bits on the weekends that we were allowing some fruits in, that was just the sweetness I was looking for, and it satisfied everything. And it felt like such a reward to be able to have a small dish of strawberries and some, you know, watermelon or a chunk or two of pineapple. That satisfied it. And I didn't feel guilty or like I ruined everything I had been working for. So
yay. That is amazing. That's what we're all after, is the freedom to say, hey, I am going to have a bite of this and feel, you know, that you don't feel guilty about it. And then also the freedom to say, you know what, I'm not going to have this, and I'm not going to let anyone make me feel bad for not having it. And that's amazing. So that's food freedom, is when you have no emotional charge, you know, good or bad, over food. That's perfect, because really food, what is food? Food is nourishment. That's all it is. We've kind of made it into this social thing, and we've used it as a soothing mechanism for so long, not just all of us, but like hundreds of years, you know, we've been using it as a way to soothe our emotions, or as a change. We've been using it as a way to change our emotional state. So when you take all the emotions out of it, food is just fuel and nutrition. And so when you realize that, and you're okay with it, and you've realized that, hey, my emotions really don't have anything to do with this, then you've achieved the ultimate goal. You've got that food freedom. And I just love that. That is like the best thing that you could have happen in WildFit, really, is to be able to say, I'm going to have a couple bites and be okay with it. And also be able to say, I'm not going to have it and be okay with it. So congratulations. That's amazing. That is awesome. Michelle, she's kind of like, she's saying that she's the same way, but with dessert, you can pass on crackers and chips, but you have a hard time with desserts.
Oh, yeah, I could care less if I ever had chips or crackers again. It doesn't, whatever. But those cookies, well.
Yep. Michelle is another amazing baker. So I definitely know, I've had her food and her desserts many times, and I know how amazing they taste, for sure. So Michelle and Kathy, you guys, I mean, maybe Deborah and Rebecca and Ed, maybe you guys are amazing bakers too. I just happen to know these two are really into the baking. So that becomes a challenge. But how's it going, Michelle? Is there anything that surprises you, or anything that you're celebrating or being challenged by with those? I did see your picture of your amazing dessert that you made recently on Facebook.
Oh yeah, when I was in quarantine, it was pretty good, but that was before spring, so
yeah,
that was my excuse back then. But Honestly, I think that it's just so not, it is easy for me to just jump back in, but it's because I'm being like accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I hate that it's so easy when when I'm being accountable for it myself.
Right. Right. Good. So you like the accountability, then you don't struggle as much, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because I like being in spring. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find it's harder when you're the one baking this stuff, or is it when you're in social environments, or like what scenario? Because I know a lot of people that do a lot of baking, but they don't even eat their own baking. So is that your situation, or is it all of it?
Mostly mine I could pass on, but if it's a new recipe like that, I'm like, oh well, I have to try it because I can't give it to people if I have never tried it.
Right.
And then once I started doing that, it's all over.
Yeah.
Then I just crave it. And I just am doing it without thinking.
Yeah. Gotcha. I know I can sympathize with that though. If I make something for someone, I want to make sure it tastes good. So yeah. So what could we do so that we follow through instead? So like if we were making something for someone, what could we do if we knew we were in spring and we had to be held accountable? What would be a good strategy?
I mean, I could pass it off to somebody else.
Right? Or we could make something that we have made a million times so we know how it's going to taste, so we don't taste test it.
Right. Then I wouldn't mind. I do say, like, I used to go, like, if I went shopping or whatever, I would pick up, I don't know, I'd be like, oh, I need a treat, whatever. So I'd get a candy bar. And you were talking about that, about Halloween. I have no desire to buy, I have not bought a candy bar. I haven't bought anything like that. So that's been good.
Yay! That's
like,
awesome.
I have no desire to do that.
Yay! So how does that make you feel? You did that all on your own.
Yeah, that's great.
Does that feel good? I know. I used to do that at Lowe's. I'd be going in there for like, I don't know, something hardware related, and then I'd sneak a little candy bar in there, or the stupid checkout lines, and they got candy bars at Lowe's, but feels good to not do that anymore. Awesome. That's fantastic. Thanks, Michelle. Congrats.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any celebrations, surprises, challenges that we can help you and support you with? Rebecca, you baked a lot before WildFit. You were sad when you backed off of that. Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. So you baked a lot, and the fact that you weren't baking made you feel sad. Did you back off the baking entirely, or did you try to just bake in a different way?
So I backed off of it pretty much entirely because I wasn't in the good enough headspace to be, like, I was trying to figure out the program so much. I was like, I wasn't ready to tackle like sugar-free baking on top of that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Are you okay? Oh, okay. Sorry, my husband just came in. So I decided that when I was more comfortable with living WildFit, I would try it again. And I just haven't made that leap yet. So
that's okay. That's okay. I think that's a really smart move, knowing that you're not comfortable with going there yet, because sometimes baking can be a cascade for us, for sure. Just like we were talking with Michelle and Kathy and Deborah too, like certain things will get that trigger, even baking with almond flour, which is a much healthier way, it's still a carbohydrate. And so it's still going to have that same response inside our body on a cellular level. So, but yeah, once you get out of spring, I mean, in spring, we can't really bake that much anyway, but once you're out of that season, then you can start experimenting with different ways of baking. When you feel ready, you at least have the awareness that you're not ready for it yet, which I think is awesome, that you're that aware of what your habits are to know.
You want to say hi?
Hi.
I had just gotten a new KitchenAid mixer and everything like 2 weeks before WildFit started. I was like,
Oh, oh, what a tease. What a tease.
yeah.
Well,
So,
you can put it to good use when we're done with spring.
yeah.
You
I've
know
been
what?
making okay, good job. Sorry.
You're fine.
Yes. Trying to parent and do different things at the same
I
time.
hear you.
But, yeah. So I haven't been in spring like I should. My dad's funeral was this weekend.
I'm
And
sorry.
so that's hard just emotionally. And I'm an emotional eater anyway.
Yeah.
So, I think what you said last week about, giving ourselves permission and giving ourselves grace to know what we're able to do really resonated with me. So, as of this evening, I'm back into spring, and I had to throw away all my vegetables when I got home. I thought they would be okay just for the weekend in the fridge. And I got home and my celery was all floppy, and it was frustrating.
Bummer. That's actually been happening to me a lot lately. I don't know what's going on with the celery in the world lately, but my celery's been getting very soft and soggy a lot faster than it used to, I feel like.
I know. And I have to buy, I eat so much of it. I use 3 stalks in my alkagizer. And then I eat maybe 2 stalks with my almond butter, because that's my daily snack. So I eat a lot of celery anyway. So I'm buying 2 or 3 big things of it. And
yeah, me too.
Oh.
You know what I
So,
did? I saved my soggy, if the celery is just starting to go where it's not as crunchy and crispy anymore, but it's not technically bad, I've kind of hurried up and made an alkagizer with it before it got too bad. But because, I do the same thing with the almond butter, which is another cascade for me if I'm not
2
careful.
minutes.
But if I have a soggy piece of celery, it's hard to put almond butter on that celery stick because it just bends. So as long as it's not too flimsy, I will throw it in the blender because you're just going to chop it up anyway with the alkagizer.
Right.
So I've been trying to make good use out of my less than ideal celery. But yeah, I really think in those instances, Rebecca, you did everything you could, because that's a really, really stressful time. And like you said, we're not always going to be 100% perfect every single day. And that's okay. We have to, like I was saying, and you were saying, we have to allow ourselves those times where, you know what, just let it go. It's a couple of days. If we're going through really heavy emotional stuff, now's not the time to get down on ourselves about what we're eating, And the stronger
and I did the best I could, just trying to make good choices. I mean, I'm in Texas. You can always get fajitas and eat them without the tortillas. And I had a salad for lunch today, and I'm getting all my notifications are coming through. My shopper is doing her sending me all the notifications for my veggies right now. So yeah.
See, so perfect. You just do the best you can, and you just say, you know what, it wasn't perfect, but I'm going through some stuff right now, and it's important that we take care of that in those instances more so, and then everything just follows after that. And when you go through this, when you're living WildFit and you're changing your eating habits and you're changing your lifestyle, little by little, it all gets better. And then in the future, when you're faced with something really heavy and stressful like that again, you'll be even better. You'll be able to handle it even better because you'll have so much more experience under your belt. So
I will say that, I mean, going back into it has been so much easier. Like before WildFit, I would have just given up.
Yeah.
I really just would have given up. So I'm counting that as my celebration, is that I'm not giving up. I'm not quitting.
Yes,
and thank you all so much for your kind comments. You all are so sweet. But yeah, so I'm just, I actually bought ketone strips this time. I've never done the ketone strips before. So I'll test in a couple days and see how that goes. So
awesome. I'm excited for you. I was just going to say, are you in? But you hadn't used them yet.
No.
It'll be,
and I won't be tomorrow, but I might be by Friday. So we'll see.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, don't worry. You're gonna be fine. And you have to do what's right for you in that moment. And like you said, it gets easier and easier every time we do it. We're more aware, and we know more stuff. And physically, our body, it's easier to go into fat burning metabolism. We start becoming more metabolically fit, and we're able to switch back and forth a lot easier the more we do it. So every time you guys go in and out of spring, your body's like, oh, hey, I've done this before. I know what to do. And so each time you go in and out, it's just going to get easier and easier. So that's always good to know too. Awesome. You're doing great, Rebecca. Hang in there.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
Oh, Deborah said the celery is not as crunchy as it used to be. You've noticed it too. Isn't it crazy? I never noticed it until just like a few months ago. Yep. Oh, you've been getting yours at Aldi's. Kathy, is yours? Theirs is the best. Okay. When it gets limp, you cut the ends off and put it in a glass container of water. Great trick. I'm surprised I have not done that, because that's how I store a lot of my herbs. And like I put my cilantro in a little cup of water, and my asparagus is in a little bit of water. I didn't even think to do that with the celery. Oh.
Yeah.
Kathy?
And the only thing is, after like 2 or 3 days, the ends will start to get a little dark and like die off, but it's still good. So I just clip off the ends again and then use it. And it's so firm because it needed water. It's a plant. It just needed water.
Cool.
All these are seriously, it's the best price around, and their bunches are huge. And like I said, we have three bunches at a time, and it gets us a week, because it's both Ken and I drinking the Alkagizer, and then we take celery sticks for a snack every day. So we have a bunch like every 2.5 days, which is insane, because in years past, like I would always buy celery because, it's great with peanut butter or almond butter or a little cream cheese, or like it's a great healthy snack. So let's buy it. And we would throw it away because we would never use a bunch in like a month. And now we use like 12 bunches a month.
I'm the same way, because I use a whole package in my Alkagizer. So like I chop off the ends, the brown bits, and I chop off the base, and I literally put the whole thing in my Alkagizer. So, but I got 3 of us drinking Alkagizers. So I usually try to make a big batch. But yeah, I go through a ton of celery. I'll have to look at Aldi's. I don't know if the rest of you have an Aldi's near you, but you might have. Aldi's is kind of like our version of Whole Foods, maybe, because they have a good variety of healthier options as compared to mainstream grocery stores. So if you don't have an Aldi's,
I have one. I have one right by my house, but I'm kind of intimidated by it. Like, don't you have to have like a quarter? Like, they don't give you bags, and you have to have a quarter for your part. Or, like, I've always heard stories. I've never been in there though.
You know what, Rebecca? I totally get you, because I felt the same exact way. I was like, I'm not going in there because I don't know what to do. They're supposed to, you have to have a quarter to get a shopping cart, and, you have to like bring your own bags, or I don't know. But this was years ago when we first started getting an Aldi's in our area. For those of you that live in our area, this was back when the only Aldi's was in Ilion. And I was too nervous. The same thing Rebecca said. I was too nervous to go in there. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go to Price Chopper again. But now that we have 3 or 4 of them, now I've gone in there. And, but yeah, I usually always have a quarter. So I'm like, I have a quarter. But once I went in there, I got brave. I finally did it. And it's really no big deal. You just stick that quarter in there, you get your cart, you walk around and put your food in there, and it's really worth it. So I would definitely try it, Rebecca, because you can get a lot of good stuff in there. And that's where I find other no sugar bacon.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes
I went several years ago. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. You go ahead.
Oh, I went several years ago before they did like the all organic stuff, like before they really switched it over, at least down here in the South. And it was kind of like a traumatic experience. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I've been scared to go back, but I'll give it a try.
So you need to get brave and go back there. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, they really do have some really great stuff. I get my no sugar added bacon there, and I think it's called Never Any. You guys probably got it right, Never Any. And sometimes I still go to Price Chopper for the bulk of my groceries, but I do run into Aldi's. And you know what I do now? I don't even use the cart anymore. I just take in my bags. And I just take one or two, and I actually go around and I get what I'm going to get, and I put them in my bag, my shopping bag. And then when I get to the checkout, I just put them out on the belt, and then they fill up my bag again when I pay for it. But that's if I'm not buying a whole huge grocery, cart worth of groceries. Then I would get the cart. But yeah, try going in there with just a bag. Just go get some bacon, some almonds, a few things, and then just, ease into it. Just buy a few things. It won't be so traumatic. Awesome, guys. Okay, so Michelle says you always end up with more than you plan at Aldi's. Well, I guess that's not such a bad thing, but yeah, I hear you. If you go in with just a couple bags, you're going to be like overloaded by the time you get to the checkout. Okay, so anyone else want to share? What are we celebrating? Any other challenges that maybe we haven't discussed yet? We're coming up on the top of our hour, where there's really not a whole lot of new news, because you guys know we're just going to continue with our spring, but it's really good when you recognize things that are going well. It's really good when you recognize your challenges. That way you can come up with strategies to make those challenges a little bit less challenging. Anybody else? We got most of it? All right. Ed, how's it going for you? Good? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I know he's not a big talker, so we'll just give him, you can tell us thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh, hold on one second. I got you. I think you're still muted. There you go. Try that. Oh, wait, we still can't hear you. Darn.
How about now?
Ah, we got you now. Yay.
Now I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
What the heck?
Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, really clear.
Yeah, I agree with Michelle. The accountability is huge for me, because when we stopped WildFit, when I went through the WildFit, I said to myself, I'll just try some of the healthy snacks and stuff that you suggested. And when I started introducing things back in, it was just like, forget it, it's over. And then social events, I mean, you've seen me out, I'm drinking beer, and I felt guilty when I saw you. And I'm like, damn, Lori sees me drinking beer. So that's the biggest challenge for me, is doing social events, because everybody in my family, I mean, a lot of you know us anyways, and we like to have a good time, and that's the biggest challenge for me, I think. And then stress with work, that makes me want to crave something sweet and simple and quick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm doing good. The accountability thing's huge for me. So being able to log on here and see familiar faces and listen to everybody talk about the same challenges they have helps.
Yes. Yeah. See, it is. We're all in the same boat. I'm not 100% perfect. My husband's not perfect. None of us are perfect. We're all going to have those situations. We're all going to have those weddings with donuts. We're all going to have those parties with beer. And sometimes, you're going to give yourself the freedom to have it. And then other times you're not. So when I'm faced with that, or clients are faced with that, I just like to ask, what would be the strategy? What could we do to help that situation? If it's truly, if you are in a situation and you're like, oh, let's just use one for an example. Let's just say there's let's say somebody retired. There's a retirement party, and it's with a bunch of people, and they're celebrating with an alcohol or cake. So we have to make a decision. Are we going to indulge, right? And so you have that freedom. So when we're not in spring, we can do that if we want to. When we're in spring, we can still do that if we want to. But if we're in spring, do we really want to? So we have to just ask ourselves, all right, I'm in spring. Do I really want to have this? And if we say no, I'd really like to do spring 100% full out. Like I want to see what would happen if I was 100% full out adhering to spring. Then I would have to say, okay, what's my strategy? Because if I'm tempted by social engagements, what would be my strategy? So we have to go through that mental rehearsal to see it, because once you go through that mental rehearsal, it's almost like it takes the shock away. It gives you your power back, because when you can play it out ahead of time, you're in control. When things catch us off guard, that's when we feel like we're out of control. So by going through that mental rehearsal ahead of time, you can gain that power back. So you can say, okay, I'm going to arrive at the party. I'm just making this up as we go. I'm going to arrive at the party. I'm going to see so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. And those people always make me drink with them. They won't let me not drink with them. So what am I going to do when I see those people? Because, you know, you have those friends. I probably have all shared with you the story of some of my friends, and I love them dearly. This is not bashing my friends, but I do have some friends who used to make me feel bad for not drinking. They didn't do it intentionally. They just think that you can't have fun without drinking. And so, but I would feel bad, you know, not doing that. And so you have to kind of have a plan in place and say, am I going to let them control me, or am I going to control me? And it's okay to say, you know what? Thanks, but not tonight. I really just don't want it tonight, you know, and it's going to feel awkward at first, especially if that's not the way it normally goes with those type of people. But once you get comfortable with being able to say that to those certain people, they're going to get comfortable with hearing it more than once. And so it just gets better with practice. So that might be a strategy. So you could start thinking ahead of time, what would I say to those people? You know, you could say something like, for me, I used to say, you know what, I'm testing out this new way of eating, and I really need to see if blank, 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 you know, like if I can lose weight, or it just depends on how much you want to share. You don't have to share everything. It's, you know, it's up to you how much you want to share with that person, but coming up with a phrase to say to them that empowers you and explains why you don't want to have to do it. Or you might be the type of person that just says, I don't have to answer to you. I'm not having it. I don't want it. I'm not having it. You know, it depends on the relationship you have with those people too. Or if you don't want to talk about it, what you could do is just say, all right, I'll go buy the drinks. And then you go buy the drinks at the bar, and you can get yourself like a bottle of water, but just ask the bartender, can you put this water in a glass so it looks like I'm drinking alcohol? You could do that. You could even put a thing of lime on it. You get that for yourself. You order the beers that everybody else wants. You bring it back, and they're none the wiser. They think you're drinking. So you could just totally trick them if you don't feel comfortable, you know, just saying, hey, I'm not doing that right now. So it just kind of depends on what you're comfortable with. But yeah, social engagements are hard until you get something that works for you, until you get a system that works for you, and until your friends start realizing it. That's who you are now, you know, and it doesn't mean forever. You know, it certainly doesn't mean forever. You could just say, hey, you know, just for a couple of weeks, I'm just taking a little bit of a break, but the next time we go out, I'll have a beer with you. You know, you could do it that way. So, but the important thing is that we don't get down on ourselves for those occasions that you have said, you know, I'm going to have a drink tonight. You know, like when I see you guys in public, I am not judging you, because I'm the same way, guys. I'm the same way. I don't judge anybody because I don't live your life. I don't walk in your shoes. All I can do is support you. If there's something that you're having trouble with and you want help, that's what I'm here for, to help support you. But I would definitely never judge anyone, because we're all in this journey, you know, and that's the beauty of it, is that you can pick and choose when you want to have things. But I don't blame you, Ed, for when you get done with the 90-day challenge. How many of you guys brought stuff back after your 90-day challenge that you didn't think maybe you would? See? See, we all do. I brought stuff back too. And that's just another thing you could do also, Ed, is that you could go back to your 90-day challenge. If you still have your paperwork where we went through the Cascade foods, remember we put them in like this, I'm never touching. This is going below our don't line. This is going to be just above our don't line. And this is going to be an essential. Go back to that list, because maybe at the end of the challenge, we sometimes get too eager, right? We get too eager, and then maybe we put too many things below the don't line because we think we're over it. And then later on, we're like, oh, you know what? I kind of really want that, but I put it under the don't line. You know? So I usually try to tell people, unless you absolutely know you really will never have that again, don't put it under the don't line, because when we do put it under the don't line and then we bring it back and then we get stuck on it and we're like, oh, now I'm having it all the time. Then that replays in our mind, that potentially sends us the message like, see, I failed. I put it under the don't line. I brought it back. I failed. And we try so hard not to talk to ourselves like that. So if there's a chance that you might have something, don't put it under the don't line. Leave it above until you get a really good handle on having it or not having it, you know, so that way you're giving yourself permission to have it once in a while. And then when you do, there's no bad feelings about it because you told yourself you were going to have it once in a while. Does that make sense?
It's a lot of sense. The only problem is I can't put anything below my don't line because I never know if I want to have it again or not. So
yeah,
I don't want to think about it.
And, you know, did you, Ed, when you had the stuff that you're like the stuff that you were describing just a couple minutes ago, when you had that stuff, did you have a dialogue about it?
When I did the Wild Fit thing, that was one of the problems, and we discussed that in our chats, but like the dialogue thing doesn't work for me. Like maybe I have it, I just don't realize it, but
yeah,
I definitely don't think like, you know, I didn't eat it and feel guilty about it. If I had, you know, somebody's cookies at a party or something and I ate one and then I ate 5, then maybe I felt a little bit guilty about it, but
yeah,
I didn't. Yeah. I thought that I would be able to do it in moderation. And I thought if I brought back some healthy, you know, alternatives to a chocolate chip cookie, it didn't work. So
yeah,
that fell right into the old habits. So
yeah,
that is a challenge for sure.
Yeah. And it's going to always be there for everybody. It's like, even myself, you know, that dialogue, it's there. It's just hard to sometimes hear it and pick up on it. What usually helps a lot of people is practicing that pause right before you're about to put it in your mouth, you know, like, or pick it up and put it on your plate. You know, there is a dialogue. We choose things like because we're not robots, right? So if we're going to reach for the plate, like let's just picture a big buffet. So we're getting in line. Let's say we're at a graduation party and, you know, everybody's got the line, everyone's in line and you're looking at all the foods. You're like, what do I want? That's a dialogue right there. We don't realize we're having it, but you're looking at the food and you're like, okay, I see a salad. I see baked ziti. I see something with, you know, pineapple in it. Like you're looking at all the foods at the graduation table and you're picking and choosing which ones you want to put on your plate, right? You pick certain ones for a reason. Either, you know, you like it, or it just looks delicious. Like, oh, wow, look at that gooey cheese. That looks really yummy. That's a conversation like that. The look of the food is what draws us to it. It could be like, oh, I've had that before. I know this person makes this and this recipe tastes amazing. That's a conversation. So the conversations are there. We just sometimes don't think of them because we're looking for something really deep. You know, sometimes we're like, what does it mean? And we're expecting some like really deep aha moment. And it doesn't sometimes happen that way. Sometimes it is just as plain and simple as, wow, look at that cheesy broccoli dip. That cheese is so gooey. And immediately when you think of that, like, did you even notice my voice changed when I said, ooh, that cheesy dip is so gooey? Like that's because there's an emotion behind that. There's an emotion behind that gooiness. So somewhere we have connected gooey cheese with, oh, it tastes so flipping good. Like there's an emotion there. So those dialogues are there. It's just learning to lean into them and recognizing, okay, I do make choices. So once you start listening to that more, then you'll be able to say, oh, look at that gooey cheese. Oh, I'm making a decision based on the gooiness, and then you could turn it around and say, you know what? I'm in spring right now. I'm not having cheese, or maybe you want to give up dairy because it bothers you. And so you're trying to give up dairy. So then you could turn it around and you can say, nope, I'm just going to pass that. I'm going to go look for the salad because number one, salad can offer me nutrition. Cheese doesn't. There's nothing in cheese that we have to have for survival. We don't need cheese for survival. So, then you got common sense that'll kick in, but it takes a while to hear that dialogue. Did anyone else struggle with the dialogue when you were doing the 90-day challenge, or did it come easy to you? Sometimes it comes easy for certain foods, and then other foods are a little bit more challenging. Did you notice that? How the dialogue is like really quick on some, but a little bit slow to come on the others? Yeah. So it's there. You're having the dialogue, Ed. Don't worry. It's there. It'll get easier and easier the more you try. But you know what else you could do, Ed? If that kind of sugar monster, food devil, food angel dialogue is challenging for you, don't give up. Keep noticing it though by practicing that pause. So before you go to reach for something, say, wait a minute. Why am I reaching for this food? Am I hungry? Am I doing it just because I'm in a social situation? Am I doing it just because my mom made it for me and she'll be pissed if I don't eat it? Or whatever, anything. Just practice a pause, just a very brief pause. Like, why am I really eating this? Is this going to give me nutrition? Just try that the best you can, and it'll get easier as you go. But you know what you could do is you could pay more attention to the food timeline, because I feel like the food timeline is a little bit easier to recognize than dialogue, because timeline is more about just being observant. The dialogue is trying to make sense of your thoughts and emotions. So that's a little bit harder, right? But the timeline, you can just say, yep, I'm feeling super stoked because I'm with my friends. I'm in a good mood and it's Friday and I'm ready to kick off the weekend and I'm eating this food and it tastes so good and it's salty and it's sweet at the same time. And then you eat it and then you're just noticing bite number one, bite number two. Yeah, that tastes really friggin' good. And then 30 minutes later, you're like, oh my God, I feel so bloated. I look like I'm pregnant. Not you, Ed, but like I'm using my thoughts. Oh my God, I'm so bloated. I feel like I look like I'm 3 months pregnant. That's the timeline. The timeline is how I felt. It was the weekend. I'm eating foods. It tastes this way. It tastes that way. You're just observing, almost like you're doing an experiment. You're just taking in all the things you're noticing and then right on through till 30 minutes later, 60 minutes later, and then notice how you feel the next day. So maybe when you notice those things, maybe that will give you the inspiration to not want something or to want something again in the future. That I feel like is a little bit easier. Does anyone feel like noticing how the food treats you is a little bit easier to notice than the food dialogue? I know for me it is, because the dialogue, it's so emotional. Dialogue can be very emotional because, like I said, we've got those emotional ties to food. And so we kind of feel we have all kinds of emotions. We have guilt, we have sadness, we have celebration, we have, obligation, eating things out of obligation. So it's a lot harder to get to our emotional thoughts than it is to just be an observer about the symptoms. That's a little bit easier to do. So start with that, and maybe that'll help you. Start with just the food timeline. What are you feeling? What are you thinking before you have something? And then just notice how it tastes, first, second, third bites, and then notice how your body feels physically 30 minutes later, 60 minutes later, next morning. And then how does that affect how you feel about yourself? Once you notice all of that, how does that make you feel about yourself the next day? So that might be the first step. That might help you. Let's see, Rebecca, you don't like what you heard, but it's there. Yeah, that's really tough. When we're listening to the dialogue, you know it's there, but we don't like what we hear. Sometimes it really makes us think, and we're like, but I don't wanna, because it's hard work. It's hard work to work on our emotions. It really is. But we can do it because we have our goals. And that's a great opportunity too, to revisit your goals. Like, why do I want to eat healthier? Why am I in this program? Why did I do the 90-day challenge? So it's really important to go back and say, you know what? It's because my mom had pre-diabetes. I don't want to be like her. It could be, I'm just using me for an example. It could be, I have arthritis in my knees and it's really hard getting up and down, and I want to keep inflammation, as low as possible. It could be that I don't want to have cancer like other people in my family had. I want to live cancer-free right to the end. I want to die of natural causes in my sleep. I don't want to die because I have cancer. We have to take that step back and remember, especially when our dialogue is really tough to hear. When we hear things that we don't like, it's a great opportunity to say, why am I doing this anyway? Why am I doing this anyway? Sometimes if we're doing it just to lose a few pounds, it's not important enough, right? Because there's a lot of ways we can lose a few pounds that are real easy, but they usually come back. That's the problem. They usually come back. So if we have something that motivates us on a deeper level, then we're usually a little bit more apt to make that extra effort. And you guys are already making that extra effort. You've already started because you did the 90 days, which is amazing. And you guys should be so proud of yourselves for doing the 90 days, because I can tell you that there are other people doing other programs that are using unhealthy food just to drop pounds, and they're not doing anything about their actual health. They're only concerned with dropping weight. And they're eating junk food, they're eating fake food, and they're spending a lot of money on all this crap packaged processed food just so they can drop pounds. And they'll drop pounds, but it'll come back if they don't get to the root of their emotional eating, because we all have bouts of emotional eating. So you guys have already taken a major step in the right direction. And knowing that you're still continuing on this journey because you still care about your health, that you still care about yourself enough to start keeping yourself accountable by signing up for Back to Spring. Or even if you didn't do the Back to Spring program, let's just say you stay in touch with everyone in your group through the Lori's Living Wild, even just staying connected to people with like-mindedness is really going to help you. So I want you guys to celebrate everything that you're doing. Even if you feel like you're not doing something well, you really are, because you're here. You're here and you're paying attention. You're joining the calls, you're contributing. You wouldn't be doing this if you didn't care about yourself. You really wouldn't. And you do. So the fact that you're here is awesome. And you should be proud of yourselves just for that alone. So let me just peek and see if there's any questions in the chat. Sorry, I just realized I brought you guys over the time, so I'll let you guys get going quick here. Let's see. Oh, Rebecca, you too. You do better with the team. Yeah, a lot of us do, because we just like that support. And it always feels good to go through something that's challenging when we have the support of a group. Absolutely. Deborah, water in your wine glass at your Christmas parties always worked for you. That's awesome. Yes, that's my trick too. Put water in a fancy glass. Now that you guys know that, don't tell anyone. Let's see. Kathy, you brought back cheese, but in very small doses and not until 6 weeks after the challenge. Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. How did you bring that back, Kathy? Did you limit yourself? Like, did you ration it out, or what was your challenge so that it didn't cascade for you? Do you want to share?
Yeah. So, I mean, once I got into the challenge and we got to that week where we eliminated dairy, like literally I thought life was going to be over, because I mean, I used to eat sweets, but that was never my hang up. It was always the carbs, or like literally, and my youngest son too, cheese is literally our favorite food. We love it. Eric's video about milk like didn't scare us off. Like it's always been a family favorite. And when I stopped and thought about how much I ate, I'm talking 4 or 5 times a day. In your
Wow.
breakfast, a cheese stick for a snack, on your salad or your sandwich at lunch, on anything we're cooking for dinner. Oh, you're hungry before bed? Grab a cheese stick. It's protein again. I kid you not, 5 servings of cheese a day might be an understatement for us.
Wow.
And then when I gave it up, I thought that was gonna be like the hardest thing for me, but I was so determined to succeed. I was like, if it means giving it up for the last part of the 90 days, that's fine. And then when the 90 days ended on July 4th, I still didn't want to let anything back in because I was just afraid of like snowballing and not being able to control it.
Mhm.
So it was just like we had gone out, we were out to eat. I got an omelet with veggies and I wanted just a little bit of cheese on it. And it tasted good and it was nice, but it was just once every couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So I don't eat it nearly as much. Just before this challenge, I started having it like once a day instead of once a week. But I just felt in the grand scheme of choices, that one wasn't the worst I could be settling for.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
I hope that mentality is
Yeah.
not too far off track, but
Yeah, that's a great way to be. And some people do decide to bring dairy back and other people don't. And that's something that every person has to decide for themselves. But now during spring, you're probably not having it since you're in spring, right?
well,
A little bit?
a little tonight. However, not typically, no.
Okay.
Not
Yeah, so that's great. You have to make this work for you. And so you're doing that. You're allowing yourself to have it every once in a while instead of having it every day, multiple times a day.
right.
And especially with stuff that you bring back, going back to the food timeline, noticing how it makes you feel is going to be really important. So especially when you're coming off of the 90-day challenge, your body is so cleaned out that it's going to tell you if you have any, no, can't hear me.
There you
Did I lose you guys?
There you are.
I'm here now. Okay. So yeah, I was just commenting on how when you finish the challenge, you're so cleaned out that you probably get a really good indication of how dairy makes you feel physically. Some people it will bother them and other people it won't. It bothers me. What's really weird is I had just done some medical tests that all this time I thought I was gluten intolerant. And it turns out that I do still have a slight intolerance to gluten, but I actually have a bigger intolerance to dairy. And I thought it was the opposite around. So it's very interesting. So I'm like, no wonder why I always had this, and this. And I was blaming it mostly on gluten, but I probably could have blamed it mostly on dairy, but I didn't know that then until I had some tests done. So it's really interesting that, I probably would have never suspected if I hadn't gone through WildFit, that I would have never really suspected that. So this is very interesting. So I'm going to wrap this up for you guys because I'm keeping you over. I'm really sorry about that. Rebecca, you're going to run? Yes. You can put him to bed. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your stories, everybody. Thank you so much, because hearing your stories just, really makes it real for all of us, that we don't feel that we're alone, because we all have we've been in the same boat, all of us at different times in our life. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and keep doing the best that you can. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be 100% on. If that motivates you to be that way, and you're very how do I want to say, you're very competitive in that way, and that is something that works for you, go for it. But if it's trying to be that perfect is something that actually is more harmful to you, then just give yourself that grace and say, you know, I'm just going to do the best that I can. As long as you're doing the best that you can, that's all we can ask for. I think you guys are doing amazing. Just a quick show of hands, who's in ketosis right now? Does anybody know? Okay, awesome. Because we're 2 weeks in, we're starting the second week in spring foods. So usually that's when just about everybody is in ketosis by then. Some of us can get in really quick, like 2-3 days. Other people, it takes a full week to get in. So yay, everybody's in ketosis. So keep having lots of spring foods. Focus on your goals, listen for the dialogue, but if that gets a little bit too hard, then just notice the timeline. Notice how you feel, what's going on for you emotionally when you choose things, and then just drink lots of water. Let's focus on some intentional movement. Let's get that movement going. Did anybody do the workout Saturday morning? Well, I know Deborah was with me, but did anyone do it with the replay? Not yet? Deborah, my legs are still a little sore. Oh my gosh. And the workout was 15 minutes, guys. 15 minutes. And I just created next Saturday's workout for you. So I can't wait to do that one. So yeah, totally fun. You don't have to work out tons and tons and tons of minutes and hours to get a good workout. If you do it right, 15 minutes and you are spent. And you'll feel it for days. So hopefully I'll see you guys next Saturday for our workout. But for now, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you on Facebook. Have a good one, guys. Thank you so much for all your shares tonight. You guys are amazing. Bye.
Thank you.